Hey guys, welcome back to another n8n video for healthcare. So, in the last video, we spoke about post-discharge follow-up care plans where patients are discharged from the hospital into the community, and we have so-called scheduled check-ins day 1, day 3, day 7 with the patient. And one of the check-ins is medication resupply, right? So in this video, we will be covering AI kind of powered medication dispensing. So it has become very, how to say, it has become very prominent that actually some of the medications can be done through AI dispensing, right? So what we have here is, can you imagine that what if AI could potentially catch those type of deadly drug interactions even before a pharmacist opens the file? Or what if it could read a patient's records and allergy history, check FDA warning labels, and even make a clinical safety call for the pharmacist to decide what's the best next step ahead? Right. So in a way, what this flow also has is it also checks whether the medication prescribed to the patient is effective. So one of the things that I guess is quite alarming is that different people react differently to medications, and one of which is perhaps maybe people say that this medication is not effective for me in that sense. So what we have here is a workflow that actually checks back with the patient after X number of days to make sure that the prescribed medication is effective. If not, what is the next course of action? So in a sense, this is the whole flow per se. So I think one of the biggest issue that we have here today is that when a patient is allergic to, say, penicillin, a doctor prescribes penicillin, or perhaps maybe wrongly prescribes amoxicillin. The workflow says amoxicillin does not contain the word of penicillin, and we're good, and we ship it. So in that sense, that if the patient is allergic to penicillin, then a prescription of a non-penicillin is good, right? So in a way, amoxicillin is like the penicillin family, right? But that's a potential fatal cross reactivity, and a string comparison completely misses that out, right? So this is exactly why you can't really use a simple logic check for clinical safety. So drug interactions are not just keywords or matching problems; they're actually reasoning problems. So the question I asked would be, what would be a genuinely comprehensive version at looking at pharmaceutical safety, and goes all the way through to whether the medication really works for the patient in terms of effectiveness. So the first stage of the whole flow, in a sense, the workflow starts with a webhook here, where they kind of say a prescription was issued somewhere in electronic health record or a national pharmacy database that you have, and it probably links with the doctor's portal, it links with the telemedicine app, and it fires this little request through this n8n workflow containing perhaps patient ID, medication name, frequency, duration, supply, the prescription supply as a whole, right? And immediately what we do is we do a check. So we fetch the data here, we do a quick check, just a quick lookup to pull the patient profiles in terms of allergies, current medications, and maybe even comorbidities as a form of safety check. Then we hit this little thing called validate drug via OpenFDA, right? So the OpenFDA is a very free public API from FDA that actually gives you the ability to kind of link to official drug labels, warning, and those other little pharmacy stuff that what's that? I don't remember. But basically, we are not just trusting the prescription per se, but we're also validating the drug, that it actually exists and is actually pulling the regulatory records on it. This RxNorm that we see right here is essentially the national database for drug interaction database, where we pass the drug through the database and its clinical identifier, and gets back with this little structured list of known drug to drug interactions. So if the patient is already on warfarin, for example, and that person is being prescribed ibuprofen, right? Then we could catch that right down here and say, hey, this is a very dangerous interaction going on, right? So this is very, very crucial that you can link this API out there. So these three nodes essentially are the safety data that we can do in our pharmacy check as well. Then comes the allergy gate. The allergy gate is very interesting here, where it uses this node here. And through the allergy gate, you can kind of like, it's more of a code node with a hard-coded cross reactivity map where penicillin maps to amoxicillin, and all the little cillins out there and in that family, and we compare the prescribed medication against every entry in this map for each of the patient's allergy. And if it matches direct or cross-reactive, we can kind of say that, hey, this is a critical allergy flag, which is true or false. And of course, if it flags out as a critical allergy, we would reject the prescription altogether. So you can see that the level of safety out there is huge. And then of course, if it kind of like is false for critical allergy, then we will check, hey, is this a duplicated prescription? So it's super important to check and not overly prescribe medications, because that's the super danger part here, that you don't probably want to double prescribe a certain medicine, right? So this little check here, the elephant that you see here, it kind of like checks whether the patient has already received a active prescription for this medication in the last 30 days. And if yes, it flags out to the pharmacist through Slack, right? And it kind of like tells, but it doesn't really stop the workflow. It just flags out to the pharmacist to say, hey, this is kind of like the patient took it in the last 30 days, right? So the pharmacist should know, but it's not necessarily wrong. It's just maybe a legitimate dose adjustment, right? So then, of course, if there is no duplication found, we actually proceed with the whole AI flow. So you can see that's the check that we have in place. So the AI reasoning is all down here using LLM safety reasoning prompts down here, where we build a prompt here that includes everything in terms of like patient demographics, allergies, conditions, current medication, comorbidities, prescription details, and the allergy cross reference results that we just ran earlier just now in the flow chain, right? And most importantly, it's kind of like looking at all these little safety reasonings that we have formed to really determine the risk level to route or not to route. And if the risk level is kind of like, the risk routing is the key stage here in mind, because if the risk is too high, we would reject the prescription altogether and not fire it out to the patient, right? And of course, there will be this need. If it's just an urgent review, we will notify the doctor, the pharmacist, in a sense to say, hey, review this before we kind of like push it out. So once again, the human aspect of the AI in AI medication is important, because that's where you kind of like review what needs to go out and not lah. And we also log it. If it's unsafe, we will log it as a safety audit trail here altogether. And of course, we talk about the approval being granted. So if everything goes through well, the approval is granted. That's where the true LLM takes over in the sense. So that's where we reach out to patients. So once we pass all these checks out there, we would next do a thing called detection of languages. So the detecting of languages is very, very important, because that's where we kind of like decide what is the preferred mode to talk to the patient. So maybe some patients are more less savvy, less proficient in English. You can use other native languages out there. So what we do is we will send that instructions to the patient through either SMS or even WhatsApp right here. And these are the two nodes for SMS and WhatsApp down here. And we'll wait for the patient to reply, right? So then once the patient has acknowledges or has not acknowledged, we'll send another reminder to the patient and escalate whichever timing you want, 4 hours or on the next day. And of course, once they accept they will have to pay for their medications and send them that medication, send them the payment link and so on. So that's where the Stripe payment takes up. Here you can use PayLah or PayNow or whatever. And of course, once payment is successful, there will be all these things along the way. So actually, even before doing all this, the instructions here could include the AI dispensing. So what you want to tell the patient before eating, like you want to eat before food or after food, or eat 3 times a day, that kind of thing. So this is where you say all that in that instructions section. And of course, then at the end of the day, when payment goes through, we will have another thing called a day 2 safety check. So the day 2 safety check here is really built in such a way that it does this little thing called a day 2 safety follow-up, that we just want to make sure that the medication that is being taken by the patient, there's no surprise early side effects, something that the whole system could not predict, might be a new allergy. And I think that's where we send the patient a little SMS to say, hey, are you okay? Right. And I think at the end of the day, we wait for the response that come in from day 2, and we'll do that little triage and everything. So in the event that, if the day 2 one is not that good, we can kind of like have this emergency SMS or even alert the doctor to tell the doctor, hey, the patient's medication is not looking too well, it's not effective, and the patient is still feeling sicker than ever. So in that sense, this is the kind of checks that we have. After all of that, we have that this whole flow is an effectiveness response. So you have that wait to see whether the medicine is effective, and then we'll log that patient outcome down here, and actually we'll send a patient outcome message. So the patient outcome message is pretty interesting because we'll ask the patient, hey, is it effective or not? Because if it's not effective, do you want a resupply? And maybe the doctor might also recommend something stronger to fight the illness that you have, or even just send a note to the patient to say, just wait it out. It's really working. The medicine will take effect over time. It's just too early to tell. So these are some of the little so-called tender loving care you can give at the end of the day, in the form of this sort of closed loop reply out there. At the end of the day, of course, if they need a medication resub, there's of course a reminder to do medication resub. So all in all, this is the whole flow. Oh my God, this is the whole flow for the AI medication dispensing workflow, starting all the way from fetching the important drug interactions, allergies, to the point of safety reasoning, to the point of clearing humans on making sure that it is safe to prescribe, and sending the instructions in the form of the preferred language to the patient to make sure that they know what they are taking in the form of dispensing, and then send another response, of course collect payment, and then after collecting payment, day 2 talk about safety, effectiveness, and talk about emailing or even contacting the care team to make sure that the medicine is effective, and logging the effectiveness in the system, as well as ensuring the patient outcome is adequate. If not, schedule a resupply. So yeah, this is all in all the n8n workflow for AI medication dispensing. My name is Dexter, and if you have any suggestions or feedback on this workflow, do write in the comment section below. If not, if you like this video, also remember to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!